Hello, 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 and welcome to the Associate Angle. It's a different kind of show, a different tournament that we're looking forward to. It's time for the T20 World Cup Europe qualifier to start. That starts tomorrow, the 26th of August. And we are here, as usual. There's a Women's Cricket Zone, of course, and also Associate Women in Cricket, as we kind of discuss and put together everything that we need to know for the competition. It's a 5-team competition, and I have with me two people. One of them, of course, is our very own Ananya Upendran, but also Yasmin Daswani from Associate Women in Cricket. Hello, ladies. We will start the preview for the ICC Women's T20 World Cup Europe qualifier. It is a 5-team tournament right now. It was a 6-team tournament just about a couple of hours ago, before Turkey withdrew because of COVID-19 and the travel restrictions in their countries, because of which they did not get permission to travel to Spain, where the tournament is going to be played. The La Manga cricket ground that has been kind of familiar now that we saw the Ireland play a series back last month there. So it's kind of Spain is coming into cricket picture. That is where the tournament is going to be played. And let's start our preview by looking at the first team out of 5 that we have in Ireland. Let's look at the squad that we have in store. It's a very familiar looking squad. There you go, Laura Delny to captain the side. And they have all those familiar names in Gabby Lewis, Louis Little, Sophie McMahon as well. There was one change that Amy Hunter came in for Shauna Kavanagh, who was tested positive for COVID-19. Ananya, let's start with you. Your first thoughts on Ireland and how they look for this competition?
Well, I mean, like you said, it looks like a very, very familiar squad. A lot of known faces in Laura Delaney. You have Gabby Lewis up top, who everyone's really excited to see, especially me. Go Gabby Lewis. But a very strong-looking squad. Gabby Lewis, Rebecca Stokel. I think they're going to be the most powerful batting pair in this tournament. No disrespect to Miranda Berringmeyer, but I think both of them are going to be key for Ireland. And then, of course, you know, as much as we talk about their batting, I think it's their bowling that's really impressed me over the last couple of months in their series against Scotland and in their series against Netherlands as well. You know, you look at that seam trio of Orla Prendergast, Lara Maritz, and Ava Canning, and the three of them just seem to complement each other extremely well. They've come together superbly, and I think that bowling attack of Ireland looks extremely strong. So I think that's something I'm looking forward to watching. And of course, the spin contingent. There's Emma Richardson, there's Cara Murray, who's kind of ousted Celeste Rack. So an interesting looking squad, and I think, for me, it feels like the strongest squad in the competition. They didn't quite get into the T20 World Cup last time around, but you know they'll be hurting from that, and they'll want to go and make sure that they top the table and book their place in the global qualifiers.
Yasmin, I'm sure by now you might know Ananya as the bowling favorite, like hashtag Team Pacer is her go-to mantra, and she kind of sides with the bowlers. She's taken all the bowlers' name: Orla Prendergast, Emma Richardson. Who are your key players for Ireland, and are there batters? Is there a batter side of thing to it?
I mean, I think it probably comes from the fact that Ananya, I think, was a bowler. So we'll, of course, be looking at that more avidly. I'm predominantly a batter, so I'm very excited to see what Ireland can do, like the damage that they can inflict with the bat. I think with women's cricket especially, it's just so exciting to watch. Like women hitting sixes now, they're playing a lot more aggressively. We talk a lot about as well just having a no fear mindset. So playing from a place, especially the youngsters, they come in, they'll sometimes scoop the ball first ball or do something that most of us wouldn't even think about. And I think that's so exciting to watch. And I can't wait to see how they perform, because I do think they'll be coming in from a position of strength. They'll have confidence going in. So yeah, they're definitely the team that I think are favourites of the tournament.
Any key player you'd kind of want to keep an eye on, or you'd like to keep an eye on from that Irish squad?
Yes, I mean, Orla Prendergast, I think, is one. I know I spoke about batting, but she's a phenomenal bowler, so I'd want to definitely watch her. And Laura Delaney, the captain, as well. So I'd like to see how she goes about, what her strategies are. Especially, I assume they will have looked at the players, studied the opposition quite thoroughly. They've played against them lots of times. They'll know a lot of familiar faces, and I'm sure they'll have strategies against all of these players, and it'll be interesting to watch them execute those strategies.
And then Ireland have been one of those busier teams, if you talk about associate cricket, in the past few months, haven't they? And would you kind of bet against them in this tournament to finish at the top position?
Oh no, I don't think I'd take the risk to bet against them. They are one of the stronger teams. They are, in fact, the strongest team, in my opinion. A well-oiled unit. They had to wait a really long time to get onto the park. Lots of cancelled series. Just to find their way back to playing international cricket. But they've used that time outside the international circuit to play a couple of domestic tournaments, and you've seen a lot of young players come through the ranks. And I think those contracts as well have really helped them train a lot more. They look, like a much more professional unit. You could see that in their fielding as well in those two series against Scotland and Netherlands. So I definitely wouldn't.
For the time being, we've lost Ananya, but she was talking about Ireland and the contract system that they have in place to kind of streamline everything in that team, the country. We've seen them play a lot in recent times. So there you go. That's Ireland for you, and Ananya is back. But we'll move on to the second team, which is Scotland. They are one of the teams that's going to play the Europe qualifier. Let's take a look at the squad. Once that it's again a familiar looking squad in Catherine and Sarah Bryce, part of that unit. Catherine, of course, the skipper, Sarah Bryce, the vice captain as well, and Abtaha Maqsood's there. These three, we've seen them in the past few weeks as well as part of the 100 women's competition. Let's start with you, Yasmin, about Scotland and how they look.
So as you said, I mean, Scotland also look extremely strong. So you've got the Bryce sisters who are coming fresh off the 100. You've got Priyanaz Chatterjee, who's been in the squad for a long time, really good bowler. I think the difference between the two sides is that Scotland aren't, although some of them are professional and do cricket full time, there are some names in there that we know also have full-time careers. So it will be hard. Presumably they won't have been training as hard as, for example, in Ireland. So it'll be harder, and it may take them a bit more time to get into the rhythm and the swing of things. But no, of course, they're not. I mean, they've beaten Ireland recently, so they know they can do it. And I'm sure they'll also come and throw everything that they can at the tournament.
Yeah, indeed. You mentioned that recent record that leveled the series. There was a 4-5 match series that leveled it, only to kind of lose grip and lose the series to Ireland, who we believe is a very strong side. But Ananya, coming to you, your key pick from this Scotland unit.
Well, it's hard to go past the two Bryces, isn't it? I mean, you look at Catherine Bryce and Sarah Bryce; they are the top players in that Scotland side. But I'm just gonna go again, team bowler, left field pick. I'm gonna go with someone like Catherine Fraser. I think she's a young off spinner, very very exciting, and she bowled very well in that series against Ireland. I think. She reminds me a little of Sana Mir. She doesn't get a lot of turn, but she's such a smart bowler, even for a 16-year-old. I think she's able to outthink batters, gets the ball to drift away from the right-handers nicely. And I think Catherine Bryce said this as well, that she's just got a very, very good cricket brain. So she's very calm under pressure, thinks on her feet, and is really very good tactically. So that's someone that I'm really looking forward to seeing, and I think she's going to be a key cog in that bowling attack. You know, aside from the Bryces and Maqsood, who all three of them are going to have all the eyeballs on them. But I'm looking forward to seeing how Catherine Fraser does.
Yeah, indeed. We've spoken to the head coach, Mark Coles, as well about the young Fraser. And remember, Coles has all the experience of working with a very good off-spinner in Sana Mir for Pakistan when he was the head coach. So you can almost sense that he'll be one itching to work with her and also kind of get the best out of her. But coming to you once again, Yasmin, where do you feel that in the 5-team competition? Because we've kind of almost picked Ireland to be our winners. Where do you see Scotland finish in this 5-team tournament?
I think it'll be very close between Scotland and the Netherlands. Netherlands have also come off a win against Ireland, so they'll also be in competition. I mean, they've got a really strong batting lineup as well. I mean, Babette de Leede really impressed me in the last game against Ireland. She batted the winning runs, played some amazing shots. And you've got obviously Heather Seegers, Miranda, so a very strong team as well, and you can't discount them. So I think it'd be very hard for me to pick number 2, but it'd be between Netherlands and Scotland.
Yeah, I'll call this the batter's way of answering, that leaving the ball outside off. Like, you kind of chose a very, very diplomatic way, if I may to say, by saying either or, but I give it to you because we'll talk about Netherlands now, and they look very good on paper yet again. One of those sides that are a contender, if not the one of the contenders, if not the contender to finish at the top. You look at that squad yet again. Heather Seegers, the skipper. Remember, she has replaced Juliet Post, who had captained them in the qualifiers in 2019. There's a change of guard. We saw them play in a different way against Ireland last month. Seegers there. There's another Babette de Leede, the one of the names that's been part of this Netherlands setup. Ananya, how do you kind of rate this squad? Because quite a few familiar names, but a bit of unknown in them as well.
Yeah, look, I think when we spoke to Esther Cordes, she did say that it's a very young squad, but it's a group of players who've been together for quite a long time. So I think one of the exciting things about Netherlands is that they now have a full-time coach. So they have someone who's overseeing what they're doing, through the year. And that's very exciting. So that means they're going to improve at a faster rate. We did see that through that series against Ireland, that they seem to learn a lot on their feet. They improved so much that they won the last game. And I think they are, like Yasmin said, I think it's going to be between Scotland and Netherlands. I think that encounter is probably going to be decide who finishes second for me. Again, I hope I'm not jinxing Ireland, because I do this a lot, but I think it's going to be between Scotland and Netherlands as to who finishes second. But Netherlands have a very strong squad, and I think they're going to rely a little more on their batters than their bowling. They do have a solid looking bowling lineup, but I think the batting is what is going to get them over the line.
Yasmin, any player you would like to keep an eye on? We saw them play against Ireland, as you mentioned last month. Any player that you would like everybody to keep an eye on, and who do you think is the key player from this Netherlands outfit?
Well, like I said, I think Babette de Leede. So she's someone that I've actually spoken to quite a lot as well. I think specific shot that you should keep an eye on from her is the ramp shot. So I was very impressed with her ramp shots in the game against Ireland. So, I mean, she's shown that she can pull that off before, so maybe she'll go in pretty strong. I think her strike rate was almost 200 as well, so that's very, very good. Very exciting player, also very young. I think she's also a wicketkeeper batter. So she told me that she almost beat Sarah Taylor's record in terms of the most number of victims behind the stumps. I think she equaled Sarah Taylor's record, so one to watch there as well. We haven't mentioned that.
Yeah, very interesting choice that because we've seen Miranda Meyer do her thing against Ireland last month, so I thought she could be the key. But Ananya, let's kind of step aside from this. We saw Yasmin mention the ramp shot being her favorite. She's the batter. She mentioned all the batting aspects. How do you bowl to her if you were to kind of turn up against Babette de Leede?
Oh, look, you're putting me on the spot here and probably showing me up. But hey, I'm not sure. I think it's about being, I suppose, throwing in a lot of variation, making sure that the batter's not able to line you up. I think that's something that Ireland did quite well through the initial part of the series, especially when the ball was swinging. She did look a little suspect to the ball that was moving into her, especially from Oila Prendergast. So maybe, I'm always swing is king. So, if you're getting the ball to swing early and she's someone who walks in early, that she is a bit of an LBW candidate, kind of falls over that front leg early. So I'd be attacking her pads.
Right, swing is king, but we saw Babette de Leede's bat be a bit quiet against Ireland. Who knows? It was for this time, the T20 World Cup Europe qualifier, for it to come out all guns blazing. Let's come back on track and look at Germany next, the fourth team in this 5-team competition. once again, if you talk about Germany in the world of cricket, the world of women's cricket, there's one name that I'm sure you would have heard, and that is Anuradha Doddabalapur. What has she been doing over the past few months, or in fact the last 2 years, whenever Germany has been turning up? Yasmin, take it over. What do you think about this squad, and your first thoughts about that?
Like you said, I mean, you can't see Germany without looking at Anu. I think she had a 5-wicket haul, so incredible bowler, very, very passionate. You can tell, I mean, her social media presence is also something that I'd mention. I think like a lot of these associate nations are getting greater recognition because their captains or key players are standing out, so you can actually, so the rest of the world know who they are. You've also got some of the younger players, so Emma Wagner, who took a lot of wickets as well. She's an exciting young one to watch. Yeah, it's a very exciting squad.
Yeah, indeed. And Germany have a few players whose stories began closer to home in India, in Karnataka, where Anuradha Doddabalapur, of course, but there's also Sharanya Sadarangani, who began her stint at cricket in Karnataka. Ananya, your thoughts on how the squad looks and who could be perhaps the key for Germany in this competition?
Well, Yasmin has mentioned two players who could play a big role in their fortunes in this tournament, in Anuradha and Emma Wagner. But I think up top again, the batting, Christina Goff and Janet Runnels have kind of formed a very strong partnership up there, and I'm going to throw in Anna Healy's name as well. The three of them kind of are very, very strong batters for them. They've scored big, they've scored heavily. And they also have shown the ability to kind of play the long innings. That's not something that you see often in associate cricket. I think like the small, well, I don't want to use the word smaller, but the weaker, slightly weaker teams usually have batters who, bat for short periods very well, but it's that playing the long innings and scoring heavily, that's something they're missing. And I think Germany have found three batters who can do that. And of course, like you mentioned, Anuradha Doddabalapur, Sharanya Sadarangani, both of them grown up, learned their basics in Karnataka, played for Karnataka. So there is, they're technically strong batters. They also have the ability to bat long periods. So I think Germany actually have a very interesting squad. I think they could be a dark horse, probably cause a couple of upsets there. But for me, again, it's been their bowling that's been very strong. While they have, scored heavily, they've also taken a lot of wickets. So it's going to be interesting to see. Now they're coming up against a lot of stronger squads in Ireland, Scotland, Netherlands, much more experienced than the likes of Austria and France. So it's going to be a big challenge for them. And I'm keen to see how they step up and how they, counter that challenge.
Yeah, I think one other thing to note is that they have, they're on a 14 match winning streak currently in T20Is. And when I spoke to Anu, she said her goal is firmly set on Thailand's record, who they're the current record holders with 17 wins. I know that the first game's against Ireland, so I think they're going to throw everything at that game and maybe hope to cause an upset. And in terms of Anna Healy, I actually played with her recently, so I can say firsthand that she's in really good form. It'll be great to watch her play against big teams.
Yeah, that's one player for everybody needs to watch out. Perhaps, as Yasmin says, she's played with her recently in very good form. But she also mentioned about the Thailand streak, and at the moment that crown sits pretty well on Thailand's head, isn't it? They've been the smiling team, as we say, and the streak of wins on their head at the moment looks good. But who knows? There's Germany with 14, as Yasmin reminded us all. Right, 4 teams done. Let's go to the 5th one. And I mean no disrespect when I say that they could be the easier teams each opposition might look forward to. France, because in terms of experience, they're not too experienced, but also this is the first time they're going to be playing. They're going to be a part of the Europe qualifiers. This is the squad. Emmanuel Brelevich leading them. Yasmin, your first thoughts on how France shape up?
As you say, I think France are the most junior team, or the least experienced team in this tournament. So I think, as you say, that a lot of the teams going in against them are probably going to be looking to strike big against them, to get runs under their belt, to get their batters in batting for a long time, and for trying out their different shots. But I think France, I mean, it's dangerous because they have nothing to lose in a lot of ways. They don't have the expectations that someone like Ireland or Scotland have, where all of them are funded. They've got funding behind them. They've got full-time coaches. There's a lot of pressure there because they need to keep performing in order to keep getting that funding and to justify themselves. Whereas France really don't have anything to lose. I think when we spoke to Emmanuelle, she mentioned that they have one of the girls, so Marie, who's only joined a few months ago. So you've got some really junior players. They're going to go out there and really enjoy their cricket and play. A lot of people forget, when it gets really big and when it gets really important in these games, to just have fun. And I think when you do just have fun, a lot of the time you pull off you can pull off upsets.
Yeah, indeed. And Ananya, last year we've spoken to Harshal Pathak, the head coach of Thailand, who said that you don't go into tournaments to gain experience, but you go there to compete. But on that kind of premise, how do you see France turning up in this tournament? Because recently we saw them lose to Germany. Will they really be thinking of competition, or they want to learn?
Well, I think, as an athlete, you're always looking to win. You go in with the belief that you can win, and whatever happens, you're happy with it. And I think what's come across whenever we've spoken to Emmanuelle is that, they just want to learn. They just want to go out there and compete. And they know that while they're doing that, they're going to learn something. And even through that series against Germany, to be honest, while they probably didn't challenge Germany, I think one of the things that they did do very well was that they showed an improvement through that series. That, initially they weren't able to bat out those 20 overs, but they proved through the series that they could do that. So I think just the little wins with lesser experienced teams, it helps them a lot more, and you learn a lot faster in competition. You learn much more against very experienced teams, and sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes it's not fun to keep losing and to get thrashed, but I think you do learn a lot more in these situations, and it does come across that France are really keen on improving, and I think that's one of the things that they'll take away from this. They've also mentioned explicitly that we're really excited to play against teams like Ireland and Netherlands. So, there's always good to take away from these tournaments. And regardless of whether they go away with no wins, I think they'll just be happy to be part of the competition.
Right, there you go, France. There was the 5th team in this 5-team competition. As we mentioned earlier, Turkey was meant to be the 6th team. They are yet to play a T20I. It would have been their debut at a grander scale. But I think that has to wait because of the pandemic and the implications around. 5 teams, Ireland, Scotland, Netherlands, Germany, and France to go to the global qualifiers via the Europe qualifier route. The first match, of course, starts tomorrow. That's 26th of August, with Netherlands and Scotland kicking off the tournament at 10:30 a.m. local time, which is about 2 p.m. in India. And it's also a double header because Ireland and Germany also play at the second round in La Manga Cricket Club. That was the preview. We'll kind of join again with Associate Women in Cricket for the review of the entire competition. But remember, there's content coming your way throughout the competition. We've had a look at France through one of their players. We've had a look at Germany as well. We also have those content coming through. So keep an eye out for that, and also see you after this competition on this very show, The Associate Angle.
Thanks very much.